Okay, so I'm gonna do something a little different. If you're watching this, then it's June 29th, 2025, meaning it is the 20th anniversary of this film's release, and I want to give it its due, even if it technically doesn't fall into any of my series. I've said it before, but Steven Spielberg's version of War of the Worlds is one of my favorites of his movies, like top 5 worthy. I've seen all his films, and I like it more than Jaws, any Indiana Jones movie, Color Purple, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, Munich, West Side Story. I'm not saying it's one of the best movies ever made. I'm not saying it has no flaws, we'll get into them, but this movie has stuck with me, and while I technically gave it a review a decade ago for my Norty's Month of Spielberg, I don't think that was enough. Again, I know this doesn't fit into any of my series. Reviews for it were pretty good, currently sitting at 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. It got some Oscar nominations for effects and sound, losing all 3 to King Kong, and while a big hit at the box office, becoming the 4th highest grossing film of the year behind Goblet of Fire, Revenge of the Sith, and Chronicles of Narnia, it seems audience reaction was more mixed. Not bad, but certainly not the overwhelming love for it that I have. And many people's memories of this movie are that Tom Cruise went nuts on Oprah Winfrey's show while promoting it. So yeah, I want to give this a full review. This is, of course, based off the H.G. Wells novel The War of the Worlds, released in 1898, though a very loose adaptation. I read it once a long time ago, but again, this is very loose. Writing was mostly done by 2 people. One, David Coop, who before this had a pretty extensive list of hits including Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible, and Spider-Man. The other writer is Josh Friedman, and though this was his first writing credit, he would later go on to write Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and the upcoming Fantastic Four movie and Avatar 4. What surprised me about the production was how quick it was. Filming started in November of 2004 and it was released in June of 2005. That's a pretty short schedule for a blockbuster that ended up looking this good. So why do I love it despite some obvious glaring flaws? Well, let's talk about it. This is Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. It starts with a narration by Morgan Freeman echoing text from the book.
No one would have believed in the early years of the 21st century that our world was being watched by intelligences greater than our own.
So this is the first and biggest difference between the film and book. Much like the 1953 version, the setting has been changed from England in the 1800s to America in the early 2000s. This may seem like a way so they don't have to make it a period piece, but it's actually a brilliant way of updating the story to stay true to the book's theme. When the book was written, England was the world's biggest superpower, but by 2005 it was now America. The reason that's so important is to show that the world's most advanced military country, with all their weapons and money, couldn't defeat the aliens. Hell, they can't even put up much of a fight. The only thing that could take them down was the smallest living organism on Earth. So in Brooklyn, we meet dock worker Ray Ferrier, played by Tom Cruise. Cruise is amazing in this. Obviously, he can do the action bits, which of course involve a lot of running, but he brings a lighthearted sense of humor even when terrible things are happening around him.
Is it terrorists? This came from someplace else. What do you mean, like Europe? No, Robbie, not like Europe!
And I could totally buy him as both an average divorced dad and a dock worker. And he's just so charming.
You know what your problem is?
I can think of a couple women be happy to tell you.
Remember, this was only 5 years after the ego trip that was Mission Impossible 2. They said they wanted to make his character like what would happen if one of Cruise's characters from the 80s grew up, and things didn't exactly work out. He goes to his home in New Jersey where he's late to meet his ex-wife Marianne, played by Miranda Otto. She's recently remarried to a man named Tim and pregnant because Otto was actually pregnant at the time. And she and Tim are going to visit her parents in Boston for the weekend, and thus will be leaving their 2 kids with Ray. Those kids being Robbie, played by Justin Chatwin, and Rachel, played by Dakota Fanning. Now the 2 kids seem to be one of the more hated parts of the movie. A lot of people find Robbie brooding and Rachel annoying. I don't really mind that stuff that much. My problem is they both seem to change character once the aliens show up. Robbie starts out as just the stoic, angry teen boy, played by a 22-year-old, who's angry at his dad, kinda lazy, doesn't listen, and breaks the rules.
Where is Robbie?
He went out.
Out where?
I don't know. He just took your car and left.
But once the aliens arrive, he wants to fight them.
We catch up with these soldiers, look up into whoever else isn't dead, and we get back at them. We get back at them.
Now, I guess you could say he's like those guys who just coast by in school because they know once they turn 18, they're gonna join the military to kill them some terrorists. We all knew those guys in high school. But this is Aliens. You have no training, dude, so just shut up. Then there's Rachel, who before the Aliens does that thing Dakota Fanning characters did a lot at the time where she talks like an adult.
It's not how you're gonna get through to him. When it's ready, my body will just push it out. Kept one of the menus last time we were here. I want to sleep in my bed. Got back problems.
And when the aliens show up, it's mostly just screaming.
Shut the fuck up!
A lot of people hate the screaming. Honestly, it never bothered me. She's 10 and it's the end of the world. What do you expect? I guess if she had acted like a kid in the first 20 minutes, maybe people would be more forgiving. That said, both Justin and Dakota do a good job, and I do like them. I don't want them to die. And I like the moments in the movie where Robbie tries to calm Rachel down, showing he really does care for her, which honestly makes him abandoning her to fight the aliens seem a bit more out of character, but we'll get to that. I do find myself liking this family. Hell, Cruz and Otto only have like 3 minutes of screen time, but I do believe they have a history.
Marianne, it's a good look for you.
You think?
Also, one thing I like in this movie is the little details that aren't obvious and you may not catch the first time. Like that Robbie and Rachel are clearly too big for their beds, showing that they don't come over that often.
The Ukraine, a country of some 52 million people, is in almost total blackness tonight.
Well, that aged great. Also, I love when real news journalists play themselves in movies. So outside, Ray sees a big storm cloud that's gotten everybody's attention. Even stranger, instead of blowing wind away, it seems to be sucking it in, which can only mean one thing. Suck. Suck. Suck! Also, make note of the kids, the families, the babies. I'm gonna comment on that later.
Okay.
Lightning begins striking the same spot over and over again, and I really love the sound it makes. It sounds like a whip. Once it's over, Ray notices that everything electric isn't working, and not just the stuff connected to outlets, but phones, watches, and every single car. Also, has Jersey really had that piss yellow license plate for 20 years now? He heads down to where the strikes hit, and here's another thing I love about this movie, how it can give us character development in such a short amount of time. For example, he passes by a mechanic, played by Larry Geely's boss. Man, has it really been a decade since I reviewed Geely?
Scottish fright.
Lightning hit it?
Not even close. I thought if I changed it...
Tried changing the solenoid.
Right, that's what I said. I told you that.
Just in that short scene, we learn that Ray is good with cars. This guy probably isn't as good as you'd think a mechanic would. Must be working for Monroe. And sets up how they will get the only working car in town. And also these two guys. I don't know their names, but from just this, I can guess they're kind of troublemakers and already coming up with conspiracies. So the lightning left a huge hole in the ground and they begin hearing something moving. And what follows is one of my favorite movie moments of all time. This scene is phenomenal. From the sense of panic from all these extras, the destruction that feels real, the fact it destroys a church first, which might be a slight reference to the end of the 53 movie, and then when the tripod comes out, it feels so big. You get a sense of scale. The effects on it haven't aged a day. I love the look of it, and I like that most people don't run away. I mean, after all, they don't know what this thing is or if it's dangerous. One guy even films it. Wait, I thought all the electricity was dead. That sound still haunts me. Hey, have you ever wondered what happens to an ant under a magnifying glass? Again, this scene is frightening. Seeing people literally disintegrated from a distance is scary enough, but it goes one step farther by giving us a close-up at one point. Jesus! Also, I love the detail that their clothes don't disintegrate because they aren't liquid like we are. If I remember in the book and other adaptations, it's basically just a laser, but having it specifically heat up the water in human bodies until they literally blow up is pretty unique. Although I will say, Ray has a few too many close calls in this scene. Gotta love those main character powers. Again, I love the sound design in this. It sounds mechanical, but also otherworldly. Ray returns home completely shell-shocked and covered in the remains of people, which is kinda terrifying when you think of it. He tells the kids to pack, but doesn't let them know what's going on yet. And thankfully, Geely's boss fixed that van, even if he's not willing to give it up. Also, Dakota Fanning deserved an Oscar for this one-line read.
Oh, Ray, get out of the
Get in, Manny, or you're gonna die. Okay.
My god, that is the most heartbreaking cry I have ever heard in my life. They drive off just as the tripod shows up, killing Geely's boss and giving us one of the best destruction set pieces ever made. Hey, remember those kids and that baby? Did they make it out, or were they just blown to bits? Also, there's a couple lines here with some implications.
Is it terrorists?
So, they immediately think it's terrorists, meaning only one thing. 9/11 happened in this movie's world. Which means Robbie and Rachel, before even hitting 20, have witnessed two horrifically traumatic events. Also, I guess I should bring up all the 9/11 imagery in this movie. The fire, destruction, people covered in dust. This was obviously done for a very important reason. Foreshadowing that the actor who played Tim would go on to play Todd Beamer in United 93 1 year later. No, actually, this does probably have a point. Not only does it match people's shock and trauma of 9/11, but also the original book had a lot of themes about the dangers of British imperialism and colonialism. And, well, after 9/11, America was going through one of our worst imperialist phases by invading Iraq and Afghanistan. I don't know if that's what they were intending, but it kind of fits.
Occupations always fail. History's taught us that 1,000 times.
This next scene gives us one of the most impressive and yet subtle special effects I've ever seen. There is one continuous shot of them driving down the highway while the camera goes in, out, and around the car while the characters are talking. Not only did it take me years to actually notice it because it's so well done, but I genuinely cannot figure out how they did that. I mean, yeah, it's likely green screen, but it all flows so well. They make it to their mom's place where thankfully the electricity works, though she's not home.
She's just not here, okay? They're never here.
Yeah, you two knew she was going to Boston. Did you honestly think she'd be home? I do love these tense but also kind of funny moments with the three. You can tell Ray is trying, but he's just not familiar with the kids.
Maybe a little
I'm
blackjack?
allergic to peanut butter.
Since when?
Birth.
They sleep in the basement, but that night begin to hear something.
Is the lightning back?
This is something else.
Oh shit, Boeing's testing out their 737 MAX. They hide in a bomb shelter, and the next morning, Ray goes out to find that a plane has destroyed the whole street. I thought it was 2005, not 2025. No, but seriously, this is a great set, and apparently it's still up to date at Universal Studios. Also, it's fascinating to think what happened to people on the plane. Were they vaporized, or did the tripods partially destroy it and they were sucked out? Either way, it's horrifying. He meets a news crew, and I love a movie where I can say I kinda wanna see the movie from their point of view.
We were feeding New York, but New York went dark. So we patched over to DC, they went down. LA, Chicago, uplink to London. It's the same everywhere. Once the tripods start to move, no more news comes out of that area.
Also, Ray learns that there's more than one tripod. In fact, there's tons all over the world. They also captured some footage of the aliens coming down in the lightning, despite, again, I thought the lightning made all electric devices stop working.
Were you on that plane? That's too bad. It would have been a really great story.
I can totally believe a news journalist would say that. So despite the entire street being destroyed, somehow their car is fine. Like, everything else is obliterated, but their car is good. Ray must have given it some of his main character powers. They stop to use the bathroom, leading to this charming moment. What the hell caused that? Well, if you've read the book, you may know about the black smoke, toxic gas the Martians use to suffocate people. That's the reason I've heard given, and I guess that would make sense. Unless those are the people that flew out of the plane. Ray and Robbie fight a little bit, but that night they make it to a populated area, and all the civilians see they have a working car. They respond in the most rational way. Once again, this shows the true scope of this event. No one outside of the car is necessarily bad, they just want to be safe. And a car is a good option. But mob mentality takes over and they soon turn savage. Ray tries to calm them down with a gun, but someone else has a bigger gun. Thankfully, he lets him take Rachel.
All I want is my daughter.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, man. Take her. Yeah. Robbie.
Again, no one's a bad person, he just needs the car out of desperation. Which makes this next part more sad. They continue walking past more 9/11 imagery, coming across this. It's been a day and a half and everybody's so traumatized that a train on fire doesn't faze them at all. Also, I think this little boy here is Ty Simpkins, an actor who would later have roles in Insidious, Iron Man 3, Jurassic World, and The Whale. He's listed as 3-year-old boy, and that looks like his face, so I'm guessing that's him. They make it to a ferry, and Ray comes across a friend named Cheryl and her daughter Nora. But they aren't the only old friends there. The main trio managed to make it onto the ferry before it leaves, but Cheryl and Nora get separated. Again, we don't know much about them, but just putting names and some bit of personality to people who are probably gonna die in a few minutes does add some weight. Robbie helps someone onto the ferry, which is nice, but their celebration is short-lived. Man, they can't catch a break. This part creeps me out. I don't know, just the thought of drowning in my car scares me. Yes, I know you can use your headrest, but I'll probably be too busy freaking out. They didn't need to show us the POV from inside the car, but they did. Thanks, Steven. As the tripods begin abducting people, the trio make it to land, seeing they are completely surrounded. Also, this is just a personal thing, but there's apparently a deleted scene called the Camelot scene that would have gone here, where the trio watch as people are abducted from their homes. Apparently the CG was done, but was taken out shortly before release, and has never been shown on any home media releases. It's one of my holy grails of lost deleted scenes, alongside Rick Mayall as Peeves in the first Harry Potter movie. So they continue walking, but come across the army fighting tripods. And you know, props to the soldiers in this, because really when you get down to it, money is useless, so they're not doing it for the money, they're just doing it to help people survive. Well, Robbie, as I said, wants to fight, and while Ray tries to stop him, Rachel nearly gets kidnapped by well-meaning but dense civilians, forcing him to make a tough decision.
Please let me go. You need to let me go.
Okay, Robbie, you have no training and are planning to go up against alien death machines. Ray, I get the whole thing about letting your kids go, but not like this. And it goes about how you expect. By the way, you want a fun drinking game? Take a shot every time Ray shouts either of his kids' names. Ray and Rachel are invited into a basement by a man named Harlan Ogilvy, played by Tim Robbins. He's a former ambulance driver who apparently lost his entire family to the aliens. And this basement stuff seems to be the most divisive part of the film. I've heard several people say they like the movie up until the basement scene, which they find slow and boring, and I guess I get it. Most of the movie is non-stop thrills, and it just stops to give us several slow suspense scenes. I get it mostly will depend on how much you like Ray, Rachel, and Harlan. And I do. Well, I don't like Harlan, he's a whack job. Also, I've heard some say he's a pedophile because of this line.
You know, if anything happens to your daddy, I'll take care of you. That's a bit of a stretch in my opinion. I personally love the suspense scenes. When the probe comes in and they have to avoid it, there's this little scare where Harlan accidentally makes a noise. I've seen the movie a bunch and I'm still on the edge of my seat. But then 3 aliens come in personally and... Yeah, as a kid these things kinda scared me, but as an adult, not only do they look like the Independence Day aliens, they're kind of cute. I don't know, can't you see having a plushie of these things? The effect isn't bad for the time, and it's not a bad design. Like I said, this is what I want aliens to look like, but there's just this kind of ugly cuteness to them, kind of like E.T. Harlan tries to shoot them. Oh, by the way, I haven't brought up John Williams' score. It's not one of his most famous ones, but like the movie itself, I consider it pretty underrated. Also, there's this moment. That's a nice little reference to the book where the narrator says that despite all the aliens' technology, they never seem to grasp the concept of the wheel. Again, it's small, but it's there. Well, the aliens leave, and the next day we see some sort of red weed growing, and they soon find out what it is. Again, despite all these huge set pieces of destruction, just an obscured image of some guy getting his blood drained is more creepy to me. Harlan begins freaking out, making noise, and Ray realizes that the only way to protect his daughter is to kill him. Okay, 1, I think there are other options. 2, how the hell am I to believe that unarmed 5'7" Tom Cruise is going to go up against 6'5" office rocker Tim Robbins, armed with a shovel? Well, he does. How? I have no idea. And it turns out to be completely pointless as that night, Ray manages to disarm it, but Rachel runs out. And once outside, we see the extent of the aliens harvesting. Alright, if I remember right, an average adult human has about 1 to 1.5 gallons of blood in their body. So that's a lot of dead people, and remember, these aliens probably don't care, so some of them were probably children. Kinda looks like Mars, which would make sense, except that Spielberg said that the aliens don't come from Mars in this movie. Ray is chased, and I'll admit, this part is probably the dumbest. I mean, how is he outrunning this? Rachel is taken, and so Ray finds some grenades and gets their attention. You know, it would be kind of funny if it just zapped him with the heat ray. It takes him and places him in a basket with others, and man, these people sell the fear. Ray finds Rachel, who at this point is just completely numb from the trauma, and we see a probe come down and take someone up into the tripod. But as it comes back, Ray covers Rachel and it grabs him. Thankfully, he gets some grenades, and an army guy convinces everyone to grab his hand and pull him back. So sucks for that other guy that no one thought to do that until now. Again, Ray has main character powers. Their grenades blow up the tripod, releasing their cage, but thankfully they land in a tree so they don't all die.
Oh, that's convenient.
Although we only see the one cage break free, so maybe everyone else in the other one got crushed or blown up. The two make it to Boston, where they see that not only is the red weed dying, but so are the tripods. But one more tries to make a last stand, clearly drunk off its ass, but Ray notices something.
Look at the goddamn bird! No! Steal!
I still don't get how that works. Does it, like, take the shield down when it abducts people?
The military manages to take it down in a pretty cool scene, but I feel bad for this guy who it looks like was crushed. How'd you like that? Survived several days of a ruthless alien attack, only to be crushed by the last machine as it dies. And we come to what is probably people's biggest problem with the movie, the ending. Many people say it's a huge anticlimax, which I guess it is, but that's how it was in the book. I think they tried to make the ending as exciting as possible, but in the end, the aliens were taken down by getting sick, so it's hard to make that setup for a grand finale. They finally make it to where Mary Ann is, and if you're wondering how she survived, well, it's because her parents are Gene Barry and Ann Robinson, the stars of the 1953 War of the Worlds, so they have experience. No, seriously, that's pretty awesome having them cameo. Oh, and turns out Robbie's still alive. How? I have no idea. And so we end with more Morgan Freeman narration as he explains that the aliens were defeated not by any weapon, but by the microbes that we humans had grown an immunity to.
For neither do men live nor die in vain.
This movie is a flawed masterpiece.
It has its problems, some very obvious, but the stuff that's good in it is absolutely amazing. The action, the scope, the effects, the sense of dread. For me personally, I do like the characters, even if some of their motivations don't always make sense. And it's not just a mindless action movie. There are themes and ideas you can take from it, especially remembering the time it came out. And even though it's 20 years old, some of those ideas can still work today, with certain leaders trying to gain land from people who already live there. It's a movie I've watched many times and never gets old. I can understand if you love the book and want a more faithful adaptation, but the film is still one of my favorites that Spielberg has ever done, and if you've never seen it or haven't watched it in a while, it is one you should check out. For me, it's one of the best sci-fi films of the 21st century.
Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.
That's what we do. Well, now let's try one that doesn't involve your 10-year-old sister joining the army.